Hi, I'm Dr. Gemma, and welcome back to Cognitive, the Knitting Psychology podcast. Cheerfully and somewhat irregularly in business since 2008. Segments today may include what's on my hooks, needles, and spindles, a strategy, something I really like, put a lid on it, oh shoot, and blather. So sit back, put your feet up, pick up your knitting, crocheting, spinning, weaving, or dyeing, or any other yarny thing you're doing, and get ready to enjoy. Hi, it's Dr. Gemma, and welcome to episode 68, Catching Up. This was a reel on Instagram in my Porch Swing series that I recorded yesterday. I was experimenting with quicker or more efficient ways to mount episodes. Not as successful an experiment, but if you watch the Porch Swing or if you have access to my Instagram account, you can watch the video of this. I appreciate, I think it was Twinset Jan who said, I can't watch the video. Yeah, I know. That's why I'm releasing an audio version, and thank you for that very supportive and helpful feedback. Speaking of warm thanks, I want to thank, of course, everyone who helped Minerva, who's doing just fine. I want to thank Karen S. for your very generous coffee. I really appreciate your generosity and your ongoing loyalty to the podcast and the comments and everything else. Thank you, Karen. I don't really have enough words to thank you for that. I also want to thank Tiny Shiny Things, alias Sally, who prompted me to talk about the whole indoor-outdoor cat thing. Sally sent a very supportive comment about just me sounding stressed, and I really appreciate it. And the idea of Minerva being a purely indoor cat interested her. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that in Minerva's last word. I really appreciate your comments, Sally. It was nothing but positive, and I really enjoyed it. COVID, okay, kids. Show notes are at our Ravelry group or at cognitivepodcast.blogspot.com. Lots of people are unmasking right now. Please don't feel pressured to take your mask off. Remember, we have unvaccinated children. We have immune-compromised people in the world. So I'm going to say what I always say. Wear your mask. Get your shot. Protect the people who cannot protect themselves. The idea that we're suddenly all okay because a surge of not particularly dangerous COVID has gone away, I think is naive and foolish. We know there's a more dangerous variant from the Omicron on the horizon. I really think when a surge starts to go downhill, instead of saying, hooray, let's go back to normal and throwing off our masks and all that, we should say, hooray, if we keep this up for just a little longer, we've got a better chance of eliminating the virus. So you can see all the links you need to get various COVID stuff, including your free 4 COVID tests, on the show notes. What is on my hooks and needles? Yes, I finished the Yule Socks 2021. They are pictured there in all their glory. And I wish I could tell you the name of the yarn company. It's a German company I'd never heard of, and I'm having difficulty finding them again. But the link in the show notes will take you to all that information on my Ravelry page, and that information, of course, has been shared publicly on the Ravelry page. So I'm really happy to have those done. I mean, that seems timely. It's only March, and they were for 2021. But I'm happy to have them done. They came out great. They fit really well. I really like them. It's a wonderful yarn. In progress, well, the don't know yet. Still keeping ahead of that game. I've done more than a block a day. I think I'm 2 or 3 blocks ahead, which is good because whenever you commit to doing one small project every day, you know you're not going to make it someday. So it's always good to get a few extra in the bin. So we're up at about 60 blocks, and I'm looking at them at my feet as I talk, and it's very, very satisfying. I'm also getting onto new colors now. I've used up skeins of one color, and I'm exploring all the new colors to keep my enthusiasm fresh. I haven't gone back to the Noro Heart scarf yet. I wanted to finish that in February. It's February 28th as I record this. Speaking of other things I wanted to finish in February, my Vestuary 2022, which is in Malabrigo Rios. The colorway is Cielo y Tierra, and it really is Heaven and Earth in that order in Espanol. And I'm on the ribbing, and it fits perfectly. I'm so delighted with it, I can hardly tell you. It comes out looking like a kind of steel gray. If you look at it a little more carefully, you can see that it's dark blue with brown touches. I really, really am liking this a lot. Currently, I am wearing my brick sweater and my knitted socks because it's cold. Now, it's supposed to go up to 70 here today, but my house is still cold. I noticed last night it only went into the low 40s, so not so bad, not so bad. But I still do have to wear my knitted sweaters in the morning at least. I'm pleased to say that two of my favorite resources, Lisa Souza Yarns and Webs, as far as I know, will be at Stitches West this weekend. So if you need amazing yarns, either one of them, if you need supplies, Webs, I just want to give them a boost. No, I don't take advertising. I don't take anything. These are people who've been friends of this podcast since it started in 2008, and I want to boost them. That leads me to tell you also, I found out Lady Di Yarns will not be at Stitches. Found that out yesterday. I would be disappointed if I was going to Stitch. As it is just now, I'm going to go, mwahaha, because I have a gift certificate, and I'm very happy about that. I'm assuming my other gift certificate will be there, Onyx Fiber Arts, but I'm not sure. I haven't seen the list of vendors for Stitches. I've seen the list of classes, but not the vendors. But I wanted to put them in as honorable mentions. I boost Lisa Souza and Webs because they've been friends of this podcast for years and have openly supported me when I did the Cognitive Fiber Retreat. But I do have a lot of other people whose supplies and whose yarns I actively recommend. So don't hear that as I'm not recommending anybody else. I want to say that because I heard from Lady Di yesterday when I was doing the live video, and I was so encouraged by that. I didn't realize she was listening, and I was delighted by that, and I certainly admire her yarns. So, okay, Dizzy Blondes, nothing going on, so let's roll into the strategy. I've been talking about the emotional management strategies from dialectical behavioral therapy. And as you know by now, I boil them down to 4 things. Eat properly, sleep enough, move sufficiently, which is where a lot of us fall down, and focus, which I used to call meditate, but focus takes a lot of other forms, including repetitive motion like running or knitting or crocheting. There's a million ways humans do focus exercises without even realizing we do them. So, having said all that, this week I'm taking a slight detour from all the classes I've been taking from the Evolution of Psychotherapy 2021 in December, because those classes are all now getting down to the same thing, that I'm listening to the same people over and over and I'm getting their message, and that's great. I think I've done 45 hours from that of on demand and another 12 of live. So I feel like I've pretty much conquered that one, and I know what everybody there is going to say. Nonetheless, I have access till March 11th, so I'll just be listening to anything I can cram in. But this week, I may have gained a new supervisee, which means my board requires me to take 6 hours of supervision training, and I'm doing that. And I'm really enjoying it because I found a course based on ACT therapy, and the guy explaining it is making sense to me. The guy who created it, Stephen Hayes, is brilliant, but I can't follow him when he teaches. It just gets too dense. Whereas this guy, Robert Sears, is breaking it down, and having already trained with Hayes a few hours, listening to Sears is really bringing it together. If you go to the show notes, there's a diagram of the 6 essential components of ACT therapy. By the way, you don't call it ACT. Hayes really likes the idea that you have to act positively to help your own mental health. So it's ACT. Now, of course, ACT stands for Acceptance and Commitment Therapy. It's ACT, guys. It's ACT. Now, what Hayes did that is revolutionary is instead of becoming a master therapist and then saying, here's what I do when I succeed, and making it into a protocol, which is what DBT is. It's the result of another master therapist determining how you help people who are unrelentingly suicidal, was how she started. But instead of that, Steve Hayes said, why don't we just look at what works? Why don't we just forget all the models and look at what works? And he did a lot of research, 20 or 30 years of research, and he said, here are the 6 things that go wrong when people's mental health is failing. And what's interesting is these are much more vague in some ways than a protocol. Like, for example, anybody in their right mind will tell you, you need to exercise to maintain mental health. Hayes doesn't say that in ACT. What he says is you identify what's going on, and if you need to do things, you do them. You take action. And he would say that's where the exercise is coming in. If you realize that your health isn't good, you act to improve your health. So a little more vague, but a wonderful model, because what he came up with is there's 6 areas in which people who are having mental illness are getting it wrong. And then he identifies what would the getting it right look like for these 6 areas. So that's in the diagram. If you look at the diagram, I wouldn't pay attention to the red letters where they're trying to water it down into something you can do. I'd look at the black letters where they name the components. So the components are contact with the present moment. That is, stay in the now. Stop focusing on what you can't change in the past or what you can't do yet in the future. Stay in the now. Acceptance, which means recognize what exactly is happening to you right now. Stop judging it. Stop saying it's not fair or you're wrong. Just say, this is what is going on. That is radical acceptance in DBT, in Marsha Linehan's model. Diffusion. Diffusion is a little more dense to explain because diffusion sounds a little weird. In some variants of therapy, diffusion would be a good thing. Personality diffusion is a bad thing in transference-focused therapy. So be patient with me, because really what Hayes is coming from there, he didn't have a good enough term for it, I think, was the problem associated with diffusion is you have fused your thoughts with your overall self. So you're having a bad day and you say, wow, I'm a loser, and now you believe that. You believe instead of that being a passing mood or just a passing thought, because you think I am a loser, you now permanently, incontrovertibly identify yourself as a loser. Diffusion is when you separate your thoughts from your identity and you recognize they are passing thoughts and you can use these other ideas to change or act on them. All of this leads to the idea of self as context, or I would say self in context, that you are who you are right now. That is a different person than you may have been in the past based on your current context. So right now, I sit in my study on a Monday morning. This is the easy example. Shouldn't I be at school? No. That was who I was 30 to 40 years ago. I went to school, longer than that, 50 years ago. I went to school 5 days a week. I was in high school. So in that context, on a Monday morning at this time, I would be sitting in a classroom. In this context, I'm sitting in my own study recording a podcast. So you change your context. And so you can hear from that example, some actions are absolutely perfect in one context. I should be in a classroom as a student wearing a school uniform. In another context, it would be ridiculous if I did that right now, unless I was in some kind of cosplay, and I'm not. So that's a very simple example, but it extends to much more deep actions. That actions that you do in some situations are not actions you do in others. It's based on context. And that leads me to the 5th value, or the 5th idea, I should say, the 5th component, which is committed action. Based on what's going on right now, based on your idea of yourself in your current context, based on radical acceptance, based on separating your thoughts from your overall identity, you now perform committed action. That is, you pick the actions that you need right now and you commit to them. And that leads us to the 6th component, which is values. How do you know what the right action to do would be? The answer is you base it on your core values. And it is amazing to me how often in therapy people can't identify their values. So these 6 things come together. And what I wanted to talk about today was values, that you do need to identify your values. This can be a very subtle thing. It is easy to see the values of someone like the president of the Ukraine, President Zelensky, that he is the great-grandson of a man who fought the Germans, whose 3 out of 4 sons were killed by Nazis. His 4th son went on to be President Zelensky's grandfather. You can see with that background why President Zelensky did not hide or run from the Russian invasion. That he has core values of fighting against oppression. That's obvious. But subtle values are also important. So you're parking your car and somebody rear-ends you, and you get out of your car and you're really upset because you see damage. And then you realize the other driver who hit you is an elderly woman. What are you going to do? Well, where are your values? Sure, you're upset. Sure, this is a problem. Sure, you should ask her for insurance information if she has it. But who are you right now? Are you a person who screams at another person who accidentally hits you? Are you a person who screams at elderly people or old women or women? Who are you? What you do in that situation is based on more subtle values. That the person I'm talking about, and it isn't me, what they did was they simply took stock of the situation and talked calmly to the woman, got the insurance information, and made the report to the company and said, this is why we have insurance, because accidents happen. Now there's a beautiful set of values in play, and you can identify them, quite a few of them in that scenario. Number one, I don't lose control. I am an adult in charge of my emotions. Number two, I can look at the context. This is an elderly person. They may be having a problem right now that I'm not aware of. And you could say that with any person, but the odds are higher because they're elderly. Number three, this person is smaller and more helpless than me. She's elderly and she's female. This was a male I'm talking about. I do not attack the helpless. I am understanding that there is a context here. Number four, it's only a car. If we can get this fixed with our insurance, even if we have to pay for the fix, it's only a car. We do not attack people over things. So that's a whole bunch of values right there. Those are the subtle values. And when you identify those values, when you actually name them in yourself, you become able to enforce eat, sleep, move, focus. You begin to develop meaning in your life that is going to help you manage your emotions. So, years ago, I'm treating a little kid. A little kid poops on the floor in my office. Yeah, it's true, man. It can be a grisly business. Now, what am I going to do? Well, you can imagine what my feelings were like on that occasion when I realized what he was doing while I was talking to his grandmother. Okay, and that took me taking a strict hold on all my values and saying, I wanted to scream to the grandmother, why are you not watching him? How can you just let him do this? Blah, blah, blah. Kids, I work with mental illness. I think that's one of the core experiences of in-your-face mental illness in my office. I will always remember that you have to keep identifying this because you have to govern your behaviors based on it. And in the professional world, particularly in healthcare, we spend a lot of time learning that skill, learning to hold on to our basic values as healthcare providers and stay in the context and in the moment. And remember, it's never worth losing your mind over a passing situation. Actually, this kid did really well in therapy. He was very clear that he was very angry. That's what that action is. And he felt helpless in my office because he realized he was going to get confronted with his negative behaviors and he didn't have any other solutions. So I know I can say that so calmly 20 years later. God bless you, kid. I hope you're doing well wherever you are. But the important thing is you have to keep returning to those values. Now, after that happened, I remember very clearly what I did. He was my last patient of the day. I had a short day. I left the office. I did my notes because you always take care of your patients. And I left the office, and in my car, I had a flat of water bottles and I had my running clothes. And I changed into my clothes in a public restroom, and I went for a run because I needed to run that off. I was so full of outrage and negative energy and frustration because I'd exerted all that control. So here you can tell when I had that value, it led to me managing the situation. It also led to me exercising and focusing on relaxing and helping myself. That running is very meditative for me. So again, These things drive your emotional self-management. Your values are driving your emotional self-management. And when you don't perform emotional self-management, that is a statement about your values. Whether you don't value yourself, whether you're doing this to get revenge on someone else. We get that all the time. We get people who are angry at family members and they use their body or they use their behaviors to punish, even though those punishments are also self-injuring to the patient. So really what we're talking about is figure out your values, because none of the rest of what I talk about in these strategies is going to work if you can't identify your core values. Having said that, nope, no put a lid on it. No, I'll shoot because this week has been crazy pants. I need to get out so badly. So no fluffy books. Why? Just keep finding dog books. Can't get a book that I'm really comfortable with. So, fluffy movies. When in doubt, turn to Disney. It could be a strategy. Fluffy movies, Raya and the Last Dragon, and the series Loki. Loki, not for kids. Loki is interesting in many ways. I felt the ending was a sellout. I felt they could have been a lot more original and interesting in the ending. However, it's an interesting, shall we say, reflection on thoughts of free will, self-will, divinity, creation. It's not a positive reflection, by the way, because this is Loki we're talking about. And there's nothing positive about the god of mischief in the way Marvel looks at him. I think Loki actually is a much more diverse figure than they're giving him credit for being. And he is the spur of creativity as well. And they keep ignoring that, which is why I was so bummed out by the ending. However, 5 good episodes and then 6 fell a little flat. But it was very, very interesting. And one of its solutions for the lack of free will is love, which I thought was marvelous. But this is Loki. So Loki, as they define him, Loki never wins. So you have to keep that in mind in episode 6. But I still think there were much more creative endings they could have done. Very worth watching, very interesting. If nothing else, it's thought-provoking. And I really like the fact the music was done by a woman, and it's some of the most original and interesting music I've ever heard in a movie or show. So I really quite liked it. Raya and the Last Dragon. Very interesting. First of all, girl power all the way. It is a female-centered movie, which I really like a lot. There are male characters. I think there's 2 that figure large. 3. And they're pretty much standing in the background, and they're in normal, healthy relationships with the female major characters. And there are moments where it could lapse easily into, oh, yes, I'm a man, I'll come in and save you, or I'm the man and I'm going to teach you what you need. There is a male mentor in the film, but it's a reasonable situation. And it is very interesting because the male mentor's higher power, if you think about it, is a female dragon. And what's interesting, too, is the subplot of what the dragons do. You don't get the full subplot till close to the end. But what the dragons do as a final effort to stave off destruction is they empower the female dragon, who perceives herself as the most helpless, powerless, and immature. And it's a very interesting idea, because that is the point of the whole film, is that women need to be empowered, and the people around them have that strength to do it. And just because the female perceives herself as helpless and immature does not mean she is. It just means she needs support and guidance. So it has a wonderful subtext. The open on the top text is, gosh, we have to be able to trust. And I first looked at that and said, well, that's mundane. But as I'm thinking about the movie, it goes a lot deeper than that. And the interesting thing to me is when you're making a movie about women who can't trust, it's a very interesting take on a feminist view of the world. That, in other words, in a world where you are oppressed, how do you trust? And by the way, substitute any group into that. Doesn't have to be just women. How do you trust? And yet the point of the movie is you have to keep trusting. Another interesting issue is the people you don't trust may look just like you. That just because the second female lead is a woman, arguably the third female lead, doesn't mean she's trustworthy either. And she's getting wrong values, but she's getting them from a very interesting source. And she does, in her heart, want the right. So Raya, it's spelled Raya. If you're an English major and a linguistics person, you would, following the rules of English, you would say Raya, but they call it Raya, which is, okay, that's an alternative possibility. I'll take that. But if you're looking for it, R-A-Y-A, not R-Y-A. But Raya and the Last Dragon. And it's just a very, very interesting movie. Bonus points, it's not all white Western Europeans. In fact, they're not even in the movie. Hey, I would call it an adaptation by Disney Studios of Thai culture or Southeast Asian. I could be very wrong. I'm not sure about this. But I'm not sure about this because it's not a culture common to me as a woman of Western European descent. And that's bonus points. That's really, really nice to see. Like, go Disney. Now, the cast, okay, the voice actors, good, but, you know, the writers, it's still kind of the boys' club at Disney, the Western European boys' club, but, you know, it's progress. That leads me to something I really like, which is, again, Disney. And to say I really like this is a pale statement of how I feel about it. I just don't have words strong enough for how powerful I found this. This is a 6-minute short called Us Again. And it is 6 minutes of absolute perfection from Disney. It is about many things. It uses the brilliant metaphor of dancing to represent age and ability. And it uses the metaphor of rain to represent the memory of the happy times. How you're going to fit this together may sound impossible, but Us Again does it, and it's beautiful. The upfront message is about aging in long-term intimate relationship, and it's beautiful. Having done that myself, being with the same guy for 35 years, they get it right. They get it so right about what goes right, what goes wrong, and what you must remember. It's a film about gratitude. It's a film about deep and abiding love and devotion and intimacy. It is not a tearjerker. It is not sad. I cried from beginning to end. It is happy and beautiful. It seems to take place on the Santa Monica Pier. Now, I don't know the Santa Monica Pier enough to say this is an absolute replica, but it is so beautifully done. And at the moment you see the sign Paradise, I just was practically on the floor sobbing. It was so well done. And the other thing is, for the first time that I can remember, I looked at it and said, wow, this is beautiful. The character drawings are beautiful. And then it hit me that this looks like a pretty accurate representation of who you see walking around the Santa Monica Pier and boardwalk at night. That is to say, hey, look, it's not all white people. And I was so shocked because when I was first watching it, without identifying why, I said, this is really great. It's such a normal group of characters. And later I realized, my God, it's because it's integrated. And they're beautifully drawn. They are conveying race and cultural heritage without stereotype. They're beautifully drawn. The characters are lovingly and appreciatively rendered. And it's so beautifully done. And I realized with a shock how wonderful it is just to look at this cartoon and see normal people, a normal cross-section. Talk about representation is everything, that it adds immeasurably to the message that this is a universal situation, aging and intimacy. And I don't know how to explain it. I felt so cheated that I've never seen a cartoon like this before that I can think of. I felt absolutely cheated that I'd never seen this before in a cartoon that represents the American public. And I understand that, if you're watching a movie like Mulan, I'm, not expecting to see anything but Chinese people because of this setting. Okay, but when we represent modern American culture, it had never really hit me so forcibly before how non-representative those representations have been. So this is just beautiful. It is beautiful on every level. It makes you feel cheated that every other cartoon isn't this good. It's really, really beautiful. If you've never formed a lifelong relationship, and if you're in your 20s, you're going to watch it and go, wow, that would be great. If you've been married 10 years, you're going to go, so that's what it might look like. If you've been together with the same person for 35 years and you're still in love with them, you're going to go right on. That is it, and that is what I want everybody to know about my situation as a 61-year-old woman in a 35-year relationship. What a privilege, what a joy, what a blessing. And age, culture, nothing changes that. So this is the animated short from Disney on Disney Plus called Us Again. It is simply wonderful. Blather. Okay, the pup date, she's in heat. Captain is in heat. She's very clean about it, but we think she's in heat. Just a lot of behavioral changes around the house today. Licking her bottom, but not too much. But no mess anywhere, which we're grateful for. In the meantime, the other two girl dogs, I just called them girl dogs, didn't I? The other two girl dogs turned on her. They were attacking her for the first few days. Now they've settled down. Now we've got the weird opposite. Everywhere she goes, they go. They're clinging to her. And the other day, I looked out the door and I saw Captain and Eleanor together. Now, they're kind of frenemies, so that's not a surprise. What was a surprise was they were lying tucked up against each other, cuddled together. And I thought, okay, she's got to be in heat. I've never seen anything like that. We're working hard to keep her away from the fences. We're afraid a coyote will try and breed her through the fence. And I think that's working well because of the older girl dogs, that they are very threatening to the coyotes. And so far, no male dogs are showing up. We are on the edge of the desert hill landscape. There aren't a lot of free-roaming male dogs. Thanks be to heaven. As soon as I think 21 days have gone by, we're going right to the vet and getting a spay job. In classes, I've pretty much told you what's going on. I'm in the middle of a 6-hour supervision where I'm really getting a much better description of ACT therapy than I got from its creator. But thank you, Professor Hayes. I still owe you deeply for the creation. And in ACT therapy, you can do your own protocol. So yeah, DBT fits in with ACT really, really well. So I'm enjoying it enormously. The beloved has his eye surgery this Friday, March 4th. This is going to be a piece of cake. It's a 15-minute surgery, 20-minute recovery. It's going to be a long day driving that, take the kid to school. He has a half day. So he goes to school 1 valley south of us. We go down 2 large valleys south to get my husband's surgery. I go to Starbucks. I pick him up. We have to get him food right away because he won't have eaten in hours. And then we go pick Junior up. And then we go pick the prescriptions up. And then we go back for the post-op check to the far southern valley. Then we come back all the way to our valley. So, it'll be a day in the car from 7 a.m. to about 4:30. But we're getting this done with. It's a very worthwhile thing to do instead of stitches because I'm just over the moon happy that my husband's going to get really great vision. That cost is going to be reduced the rest of our lives. It was another $2,000. It's $2,000 per eye to get him the lenses he needs because they don't just take away cataracts now. They do LASIK. It's so wonderful. It's just so wonderful that we have this chance to make this kind of difference at this stage in our lives for him. So I'll miss stitches. I'll miss you all. I had mixed feelings about doing all that driving, but I'll definitely miss you all. My husband is waving with his beautiful new one eye that will soon be 2 new eyes. So I will miss you all. With that, I want to say my gratitude to Lex, who I had a great phone call with the other night, a Zoom call or FaceTime, I forget what. It was wonderful, and Lex, I so appreciate it. And I appreciate also the check-in from Lady Di, who will not be at Stitches, but great yarns. You should know her. Hopefully I'll get on to knitting with her. I want to also thank Danny, who was going to be my roommate, who really graciously did not fuss when I said I can't make it. And instead of holding me accountable for half the cost of a room, she also decided she's not going. I love you, Danny, and I'm so grateful. And talking to you was such a blast. I also talked to her this past week. So you all up at Stitches, I want you to have a great time, have enough fun to make up for me not being there. So you have fun for yourself, but you also have enough fun for me. Minerva gets the last word. And this is about being an indoor cat. And I've had a real revolution in the way I treat Minerva since her stomach surgery. That the risk is that she'll do what she did again, because there is no reason for her to change. That she is not going to be able to understand that she ate string, and that's what caused her problem. So you have to go back, like a good CogB therapist, doing committed action. You have to say, either I put her down and say this is hopeless, and she's suffering, and she'll only suffer again, which was the choice I was facing a few weeks ago. Or I say, I'm going to give her the best life I can, I'm committed to her, which means I pay her vet bills, and if she does it again, yeah, we would have to put her down. There's no way you can go through that surgery twice. It would be an act of supreme mercy just to put her down. But I committed to paying her vet bills, so I didn't do a GoFundMe or anything else. I really feel that this was about my not understanding enough about her. Now, I've had cats for 40 years, but I feel that I should take this responsibility. And I am grateful that I can, and my husband has been on board with this, because I feel like if I had recognized that she is significantly different in personality from most of my previous cats, I would have acted in a more effective way here. So we're doing that. And speaking of using your values, that does not stop me from being grateful to a few people really responding generously on coffee. I really do. I don't want to minimize how much I appreciate your kindness. And I know, one person wrote to me and said, I'm just worried because that's a lot. I know. So that's generosity, but I really appreciate it. So please don't hear me minimizing your generosity. However, now we're in the change phase. So I've been watching videos on YouTube about cat behavior, trying to really isolate what was going on there. The person who's getting it right, and he'll probably be what I really like next week, is a guy called Jackson Galaxy. He calls himself the Cat Daddy. And he's got a lot of cat experience, including shelter work. And he really gets it. And he's identifying the problems and describing them to a T. That when I've been instituting Jackson Galaxy's changes, huge improvement. So, thing number one was I catified the inside of the house. I put in purchase for her, I increased the number of toys, and I put in scratching pads. And that leads to what I was really thinking about this week was I tried to teach her not to scratch the furniture in the ways that have always worked with my other cats. It did not work with Minerva. And so I bought her, and you can see one in a picture. They're $3 cardboard scratch pads. You can get them, I think I got them at Target, and I think you can get them at Walmart. They're only $3, and you just put them everywhere your cat is scratching. Because your cat, according to Jackson Galaxy, is scratching in specific places, and we tend to think that's about, it feels good to scratch there. Galaxy says no. He says it's actually a territorial behavior, and it's often going to be in the places where you sit or you are a lot, because the cat is claiming your space as well. Not in a bad way, just saying, I want to be with you. So if this is your space, this is my space. So I tested this by putting the scratch pads by the couch in my study where she's always scratching, and she vertically scratches on the side of the couch. Strangely, she doesn't like vertical scratch pads, but she's using them instead of my couch. So one of the strategies today is to go buy about 5 more and put them around the house. Interestingly, she scratches on the cushion pads that are under the dog's crates because she's telling the dogs that they don't own the crates, that she shares in the ownership. So this has been very helpful. Now this leads to a topic that got picked up this week when I was watching a show called Cat Vet that's an Irish veterinarian in Dublin who's devoted only to cats. And she goes at length on episode 4 or 5. She goes off on Americans declawing their cats. So I want to talk about that for a minute because I think you have to be living in a very different context to have that problem. Now, let's get clear. I'm not big on declawing cats any more than she is. However, this is a contextual thing. That we've been discussing declawing Minerva for years, and I've had declawed cats. One of my cats, Guinevere, it literally came down to she was going to be put to sleep. My other cat, Lucy, same thing, but someone else did the declawing, and then we took her anyway. I have seen all sorts of pictures of mangled cat paws that animal rights groups love to circulate those. I have vet tech and been associated with vets for 40 years. I've never seen that in real time. The vets I've known have been perfectly fine with declawing. And here's why. People talk about what cats now can't do because they're declawed. Let me help you. We don't declaw all 4 feet, we declaw the front feet. Because cats, we are told, are doing this to sharpen their claws and improve their claws. Yeah, well, they're not doing it on their hind claws, so you might want to think about that. They're only doing it on their front claws. So why don't the hind claws, by this logic, need maintenance? There is no excuse for bad veterinary work. That's not an issue of animal cruelty. That's an animal rights issue that's based on you've got the wrong vet, and that person should be evaluated for their ability to practice. Now, what about cats can't climb trees? All my cats have been able to climb trees. So far, I can think of 3 of my cats that were declawed under various circumstances. One, Guinevere, that I actively declawed because she'd lost so many homes based on her clawing. Guinevere climbed trees. Guinevere killed animals, killed birds. When I moved to Pullman, Washington, it was like being in a Hitchcock movie. Every morning I got up and there was the bird Guinevere had killed and dismembered without front claws, lying all around the house in her tribute of love to me. Did it change her personality? Yeah, it made her able to live with humans. That's how it changed her, but she was climbing trees. She was attacking dogs. I had to keep an eye on her because she was known in Washington State for riding dogs around the neighborhood. I don't think she was missing those claws, kids. And I would say that our other cat, Doe, eventually we had to declaw Doe because he was so aggressive with the claws that neighbors were complaining. The vets thought he was hilarious. He fought everything he could fight with. He was a runt of a litter. And we used to call him the tough guy Tomcat. He was this little tiny yellow Tom. And Doe is famous for attacking the dogs in the neighborhood. The only ones who ever got away from Doe were, we had huge mockingbirds and, was it mockingbirds? Yeah, I think it was mockingbirds. And they ganged up on him as they will and used to drive him around on the ground. They would all get on the ground and raise their wings and chase him. They knew what he was. So, no. The other declawed cat, Lucy, that the previous owners declawed and gave to us, again, killed birds left and right. So, I don't know what this quality of life is that the cats are losing. I've never witnessed it. I've never, in all the associations that I've had with veterinary, I've never seen a cat with injuries or mangled paws. Nonetheless, I don't want to do it. Any surgery is a risk for any animal, including humans. You don't want to just do that. You have to have a good reason. Now, here's the thing. I lived in Scotland. I've been to Dublin. Traffic is not as fast. Yeah, it's just as lethal if a car hits a cat in Dublin as it would be here. Traffic is not as fast. They don't have the same predators. So, in Dublin, people let their cats out. And traffic going more slowly means the car has a better chance to see the cat and not hit it. Hello, Minerva. Where I live, we don't have a lot of traffic. We're on dirt roads in the desert. What we do have, hunting owls, great horned owls. Go look up the size of a great horned owl if you want to see why a cat is no match for it. Hawks, eagles, coyotes. Rattlesnakes, which look like cat toys. Cats are usually pretty savvy about snakes. Dogs are not. Dogs don't see them as a natural enemy. But cats do get snake hits every so often. It is a well-known fact in the town of Acton, California, that if you have a cat and you put it outside, it's going to die real soon. Coyotes, we've watched them hunt cats. We've watched them hunt feral cats that we couldn't catch on our property. It's not a pretty thing. So even though there's relatively little traffic here, we don't let our animals run loose. Yeah, they'll take out dogs too. They'll take out llamas if you're not careful, which is one reason we have big farm dogs on our farm and fencing. But coyotes will go through fences. They're amazingly clever about it. So, you have to be realistic. We don't want to do that to our animals. But no, Americans are not a bunch of sadists running around ripping off the toenails of cats. That's not actually what we do. And I kind of resent the Irish vet for saying that or implying that. I'm glad in Western Europe that the countries do not allow it. Good for them. In their circumstances, what they're saying is smaller chance of getting hit by a car. Good for them. Smaller chance of getting taken by a large-scale predator. Absolutely. If I was in that world, I would never declaw a cat. In our world, we have faster traffic. We have freeways and highways. We have much more use of cars, much less use of public transportation. If I want to see a dead cat, I can just drive down the road outside our house. I'll see them every day. Dead cats, dead dogs, even dead coyotes. The coyote cleanup squad is very fast around here. They don't last more than a few hours, but if you get up in the morning, you're going to find them. So that's my answer to declawing cats. It's a qualified, yes, you can do it, but one, know your vet. Trust your vet. Ask your vet to see what they're doing. One of the reasons I have no problem with declawing is when I was a vet tech, I told the vet my objection, and he took me in the back during a cat declaw surgery. I assisted in the surgery. I got to see what he was doing. I got to see why the cat would recover okay. The cat recovered just fine. In fact, 24 hours after surgery, that particular cat was chasing cat toys with its forelegs, and not noticing the claws weren't there. So, you have to take that with a grain of salt. We don't want to change an animal if we don't have to. If we, however, ban declawing in America, we're going to put down hundreds of thousands of cats in the first year. So that's kind of where you have to come from. Nobody likes to do things. We don't want to do drastic events. Costs a lot of money. Don't want to do it. But let's try to be fair. As it is, Minerva has her claws, and she is happily destroying something in the living room that I'm going to have to go see to right now. So in the meantime, yes, this is a very unedited episode. I thank you for your patience with that. I don't know when I'm going to get to episode 69 because I'm just going at top speed this next week with my husband's surgery. The good news, I have Friday off and Saturday off for his surgery and recovery, so I have a lot of likelihood of just hanging around the house and recording and catching things up and getting back on to a more normal schedule. So thank you, everybody, for your patience. Remember, you don't have to take your mask off, even if they're forcing you to go back to your office. Good for them. But everybody, please remember that we need our shots. We need to physically distance while maintaining social relationship online. We need to wear our masks. We need to wash our hands. The whole point of this, we need to protect other people. With all that in mind, please stay safe, take care of each other, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye. So we have come to the end of another episode of Cognitive. Please do not use this podcast to diagnose yourself. If you think you are having a mental health problem, please contact a licensed mental health professional. Show notes for these episodes can be found at cognitivepodcast, all one word, .blogspot.com. Episodes can be found at iTunes under the name Cognitive Podcast, but also can be found posted next to the show notes on the Blogspot page. Thank you so much for listening. Everybody, stay safe, take care of each other, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.